Welcome back. I've had the idea of testing my modeling and texturing abilities by creating concept scenes for a potential game. I kinda have a thing for beaches in video games, so to design this, one of the first things I knew I had to learn about was shaders. So after taking 15 pages worth of notes on the HLSL language and getting lost a lot, I finally jumped in a water shader tutorial, obtaining the result I was looking for. After that, I did the old reliable pixel rendering effect. At this point, I had sort of a canvas to draw on, so I drew some concept designs to have a reference guide for when I begin modeling. With this in place, I first modeled the more simpler meshes like a log for a bridge. After adding this log, I realized it didn't quite fit with the toon style ocean. Skeptical of the visual consistency, I added a toon log prefab from the previously mentioned water shader tutorial. And this is when I realized the visual inconsistency of my own wooden log. So it's now that I define a potential aesthetic theme for the game. And seeing my previous work, and inspired by other frames of reference, I got stuck. So I just kept modeling without texturing. Every now and then, around morning, I check the Pixel Daily's theme of the day, and draw some pixel art in order to fix my horrendous art skills. After that, I got back into Unity and kept dabbling with the idea of visual consistency. I downloaded Mesh Edit, which is a tool to create meshes inside of Unity and texture them as well. I use it for texturing 3D models with pixel tiles. Trying to figure out the visual style for the scene, I made a pixel style wood texture. Unfortunately, I couldn't tile it with the mesh, later realizing it was an internal configuration of Mesh Edit, so I went in and changed it. Finally, adding the tiling, I was presented with the following. At this point, thinking about the visual style, I thought, well, why not both? Pixel rendering and pixel textures. And if at any point I want to remove the pixel rendering, I could just disable the script. I jumped back to Mesh Edit, reconfiguring again some of its shader code so that the water shader could interact with the objects. Then I designed a new log, but with our new style, and this might have all seemed a bit like why, but it's really important because this log now represents the visual aesthetics of our scene. I worked on implementing more of the concept models, creating a wood plank pixel texture, then applying it with Mesh Edit. Finally, I set up a Cinemachine camera with a simple temporary movement script, tested out the feel of the two models, and then headed to sleep. In Blender, I researched and used physics-based models to create a cloth-like texture. After I was done, I made a cloth texture and added it to the cloth mesh. Then, I implemented the cloth physics using Unity's cloth component.
Everybody put your hands in the air!
It took me a while, but I got it to work at the end. There's still a problem with gravity and another acceleration not making it have more wind, but I think that's actually a current bug or I'm just trash. I began the day by changing the wood plank scales to be a bit shorter. Next, I modeled a crate, and as I tried to add it, I realized some vertices were overlapping, so I went back to the drawing board. Then, I realized another interesting problem, which was the fact that some faces were being rendered in the wrong side. So I flipped some faces around and finished the crates. This literally took me 3 hours, so after that, I was done. I've been wanting to add more dynamic life to the scene, so I implemented a wind trail and a temporary new skybox from an asset pack I have, obtaining this look. To populate the scene with some potential eye candy tools, I created scroll sprites that can be for possible quests. I also designed apples, pineapples, and banana sprites. Then, utilizing a billboard sprite to make the rotations of each sprite always look at the camera, I created this. I decided to add a quest board to the harbor, so I modeled a wooden-like board, then applied some textures, eventually realizing it was visually inconsistent with the rest of the map. So I ditched these textures and began working on pixel-style textures. Ending the night, I decided to create a cool GUI for the quest board that would help relay its purpose and location faster. For the last day of the devlog, I warmed up by designing a sort of quest log for the quest board, added it to Unity, shifted some values so they look different, and this was the result. Then I implemented a terrain for a beach, gave the terrain some textures, populated it a bit with rocks and palm tree sprites, obtaining the following final result. That'll be all for this devlog. Not a lot of coding involved. As mentioned previously, I've been trying to learn more about modeling and texturing. Next devlog though will be more code oriented. I'm currently trying to choose whether to implement procedural dungeons or a boat sailing system. Let me know what you prefer. Until next time, I'm signing out.